Hello, hello, and welcome back to Read the Coverage Sports. So today we're continuing more of our draft coverage. Today we're going to be looking at quarterback Jalen Hurts from Alabama and University of Oklahoma. So there's a lot of things to like. There's a lot of real interesting things kind of going on with Jalen. I think he's just like a real polarizing figure. I could see like really high end projections for him, and then I can see real bottom tier like he's just another guy kind of thing. There's not a lot of great comparisons to make for him just because his skill set's really unique and then things that he does are unique. A lot of people unjustifiably want to compare him to like a Lamar Jackson, which that's not comparable whatsoever. Just because both of them ran the ball doesn't make them, comparable. Lamar Jackson, I think, was probably a little bit more of a polished passer coming out of college. And then the other thing really is they're different types of runners. If you look at Jalen Hurts and you watch him run, he runs more like a running back versus Lamar Jackson is just this electric, just beat people with speed. You're not seeing him necessarily like running people over and things like that. So they're different there. There was a lot more sustained passing success with Lamar Jackson as well. He just put up some like ridiculous numbers for multiple years versus Jalen Hurts really only had this last year at Oklahoma where he just put up the video game numbers, which granted he was at Oklahoma, which that's what they do. I mean, you look at the last 2 years, Kyler Murray, Heisman, number one overall. Before that, Baker Mayfield, Heisman, number one overall. So on and so forth. So that's what Lincoln Riley does. It's really what the air raid does, and that's what Lincoln Riley is. He's an air raid guy at his core. He does a lot of things somewhat differently, but for the most part, he's an air raid guy. When we're looking at just like mechanics and technical aspects of Jalen Hurts, there's a lot of like. He's not. I'm not gonna say he's polished, but you see a lot of good things. His mechanics are relatively okay as far as his throwing motion. There's a couple little things. I think for the most part, the big thing he'll have to work on is he arms the ball a lot. And the best way to really describe that is, typically whenever you're a quarterback and you're throwing the ball, you're really wanting to like get your whole body around so you can get your hips and then your shoulders and then the arm comes through. Versus him, he almost leads with the arm more often than not. And so he's making all these really great throws with power and velocity and everything like that, but he's not being able to do it consistently, and the arm's not going consistently where he wants to go all the time. Sometimes throws are high, sometimes throws are low, because you can't really control that when you're a pure arm thrower, and so those are things he'll have to work on. But even as just a real arm thrower, he's just got a real rocket. He is plenty strong enough to make all the capable throws. Looking at like comparison type guys, I mean, the closest one really I could compare him to is like, you could see in a top end somewhere like a Taysom Hill. And it may be where he finds success early is taking that type of like slash role, where he goes into an offense that's not expecting him to come out and start early or play early, but he can come in on different packages and run the ball, catch the ball, do this, that, and another, throw the ball. He's more than capable of throwing the ball. But on then like a low end, you look at a guy maybe like Christian Ponder, who was a capable runner, but just the passing game never quite got clicked together. So there's interesting combination there. Now, the one thing that it's hard to look past with Jalen is he's got the it factor. Like, he's the dude. Like, obviously he took Alabama to the national championship twice. I mean, obviously he was benched for Tua, but I mean, Tua is a once-in-a-lifetime, almost generational talent, and at the quarterback position, whereas Jalen is more just this overwhelmingly talented person. But he just has this, like, he makes plays where it's just like, oh, damn, how did you do that? But then on the other end, he'll make a play like, oh, damn, why did you do that? So there's a lot real, like, opposite ends of the spectrum there. I think there's a lot to work with, and he's a great kid. Like, everything about him, he's got all the intangibles. He looks like he'd be a great leader in the NFL. Like, he's a great locker room type of guy. He's the type of guy you want to draft just for the fact of who he is and what he is and everything like that. And then hopefully the rest of it comes along, which I think it will if he's given the right opportunity. You'd like to see him go to somewhere. I think a perfect situation for him would be like Pittsburgh Steelers. And I know that's a lot of people have mentioned that, but I think that ideally would be perfect for him. If he could go and sit behind Big Ben, which there are some similarities there. He's way more of an athlete than Big Ben is, but just as an arm strength guy, and if he can go in and do these different types of packages, which the Steelers have always had different packages to let wide receivers throw the ball and do this, that, and another. They ran some Wildcat last year with James Conner and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of potential there. We'll kind of see how it goes. I don't, as talented as he is, I'd be careful taking him as a first-round pick because, kind of how we talked about with Justin Herbert, there's an expectation of if you're a first-round guy, you're going to be pretty much, for the most part, expected to play early or at some point during your rookie year. And I just don't think he's going to be capable of doing that. I think he's going to be a 2 or 3 year project, which I think the Pittsburgh would be good. He could sit behind Big Ben for 2 years and then kind of really figure it out. So we'll see, but he's got superstar potential, and that's like the really exciting thing. You see throws and you're like, dang. You see him moving around and just like, dang, how did you do that? So it's really cool to watch. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the film. All right, so we're getting into our Jalen Hurts film. So this is Oklahoma versus Texas. So really big rivalry games, really big important game. It was kind of hard for me to actually find games that were really worthwhile. I couldn't get a hold of the Baylor games, unfortunately, or the LSU. And then a couple of the games that I did get access to, just, like the Houston game, he was like 20 of 23 that game. Like, you're not going to see a lot of real, like, prospect type stuff there. He's just blowing people out. All right, so here we go. So as we talked about, Lincoln Riley runs a real offshoot of the air raid in terms of what he was doing, what he does at Oklahoma in general. But this year in particular, it was really the type of stuff. He really adapted it to Jalen Hurts. Like, we see a lot of these extra tight ends, a lot of these heavy sets, multiple running backs and things like that. He was really taking advantage of the athlete that he had back there to run the ball, which is really cool to see. Typically I don't include, design runs and things like that for quarterbacks because we're trying to analyze them as a passing or a throwing prospect. But with a guy like Jalen, it's hard not to include things like that. There's so many really awesome plays, and that was so much of what he did at Oklahoma that we're going to go ahead and include a lot of those runs today. So first up, we're just going to get a little jet, and this is just a traditional power read or dash. Everyone's got a little bit of a variation on what they end up calling it. But really cool concept. It's probably my favorite running play in football right now. It's just a really, really strong play. So this guy's just going to come and we're going to run a jet. He's going to come out and block. And then we're going to have a pulling lineman come up the hole. And then we're going to just end up reading this guy on the end of scrimmage. And then Jalen makes the decision to keep it and follow the puller to run power, or give it to the speed sweep and let him make something happen. So if you watch a lot of college football in particular, you see this play everywhere. So he just decides to keep it, get some decent yardage there. So here they run an interesting kind of, you see this in a lot of their film. This is a play that they run quite a bit. It took me a while to really figure out what was going on here. But it's like a fake screen. It's not even a fake screen. It's like a real advanced RPO where there's a screen happening, and then if he doesn't want the screen, I'm pretty sure it's just a designated run if he doesn't want the screen. But this guy is basically going to come run a screen here, and we're just going to get a lot of stalk blocks from these wide receivers, and then Jalen's going to read it. Like, if he doesn't like the screen, then he's just going to take off. Real interesting kind of, see right here, we can see them all they're not really blocking them. This guy's engaged a little bit, but where he's at, he's fine. But it's real just a read. Like, if this receiver gets open for the screen, he'll dump it to the screen. If not, then he's just going to take off, which ultimately is what he does here, and which is a good decision because he just gets ridiculous amount of yardage here. But you'll see that play a lot, not just in this game, but in several of the games. In the Baylor game in particular, both of them, they ran it multiple times. So just a really cool variation. So here we see it here again. See, and you can tell it's a screen just because of how these receivers up here, they're not running routes whatsoever. They're stalk walking, which, if you don't know what a stalk walk is, that's where you're going out there and you're just basically getting in front of the guy because you can't touch him so many yards downfield, but you're there, and then as soon as the ball is thrown and your guy catches it, then you can block him. So you're stalking him, basically. And so it's just a quick read. If he doesn't like what he sees, then Jalen's just going to tuck it, and go, which more often than not, that's ultimately the best decision for Oklahoma. Over here, we're just going to get another power read, I think. I think that the guard just does a poor job getting around. And that's another thing to talk about. In the last 2 years, we talked about, of course, Kyler and Baker had ridiculous numbers because they had NFL offensive line, which for the most part they did. Jalen did not. This offensive line let him down numerous times over the course of the season. You'll see it in this game in particular. If you go watch the Baylor game and the LSU game, the defenses were getting after the line, and they could not protect him. They could not hold up. So a lot of what Jalen had to do, there wasn't a choice. It was either take a sack or go be an athlete, make a play. So I think that is something to pay attention to, is he did not have a lot of help, not a lot of protection. But again, we're just going to get that power read, and you know that it's because the guard's pulling. They're doubling, and then the guard's pulling. So the guard should be getting his butt up in this area, and then we should be reading this guy. And depending on what he does, if he follows the speed sweep, you go, or if he stays, you give, is what it should be. This guard just doesn't do a great job getting out there. I don't know if he changes his mind or if he loses track of where he's going. But then Jalen just decides to make a play, and he doesn't get any help again. It's kind of what we're talking about. So I do think that's an important distinction between him and Kyler and Baker. They both had real stout offensive lines. He did not. Granted, his skill players were probably better top end to top end, but his offensive line was not. So we're just going to get an easy curl. It's the throw's fine and everything like that. Ideally, you'd like to get it up a little bit higher, and you'd like the receiver to really, come back and go get it instead of wait. But that's probably how it's coached within the offense. The receiver does a good job spinning a guy out and getting some extra yardage. So here, he goes to bail one way. There's nothing there. He goes the other way. And then he throws into the end zone, which this should be a touchdown. When you're going right here, this guy right here is open. He's open all the way here. There's no one there that's really going to interact with him. He needs to really just put this ball here into the pylon and then let him go get it. I know it's a difficult throw because he is running, and he's running to his left, but he gets squared around a little bit, and he just misses. He misses low, really. And we'll see a lot of that where the idea is correct, but it's just a little off. So we get the pump fake, and they jump. He didn't like what he saw, and so then he kept moving. And then you can see it, just look how his body is when he throws his ball. His falling back here was not necessary. The receiver does everything he can to try to get over there, but he's already got to dive for it, and then he's got to slide for it. Could he have caught it? Maybe. You expect guys to make those kind of catches, but as a quarterback, you have to make those. Like, that's pretty much how it is. So here, I think this is just a straight, like, outside zone with the quarterback. Which, again, when you got a guy like Jalen, you can do stuff like that. Because it's just a straight run. Yeah, and then by the way the linemen are stepping, that's what it makes it. To me, it looks like it's an outside zone. And this is just a little dump off, like a little screen. Just quick, easy completions. Receiver fights really hard for that. These are ones you can't really give positives or negatives to Jalen unless it was like a poorly thrown ball. There's no read to it, really. You just get your guy out in space and let it make a play, or try to, and he does for the most part. He just can't, break 3 tackles. This is a designed rollout. I'm pretty sure it's designed to be a pass. Like, it's a pass first, and then he obviously has the option to run. But you just got this receiver right here just running straight to the corner of the end zone, the front corner, and he just gets it to him. Easy throw. Nothing real complicated there. But it's good to see that even getting outside, that he is going to still throw it. And he throws a good ball. That's a good decision, good throw. So we're faking that power read. I'm just going to get a deep throw here. And he gets it to him on the money. That's a good throw. Good throw. Good throw to the sideline. We'll take that. We're going to escape pressure. So he's going to decide to dump it off here. And, it's hard whenever you're in this scramble drill situation to be really aware and anticipate where guys are going. But you'd like him to come back and find this guy who's coming downfield versus dumping it off to this guy over here. You'd like to see him keep his eyes upfield, really. He doesn't do that very often because he's really looking to run a lot of the time when he's outside the pocket. But you'd like him to, whip his head up, see that guy, get a good completion instead of kind of almost like a throwaway. But you're not going to find many guys that do a better job escaping pressure. And then we'll see it a little bit later. He's really good inside the pocket as well. He's not just like a bailout type of guy. Like, he does a lot of good work inside the pocket. I attribute that probably mostly to the time he spent in Alabama, which that's, exclusively how they really want to teach it. But he does have really good pocket awareness as well. So he ends up throwing this here outside, which is not a wrong decision because he is open. But if we'll look whenever the throw is going on, let's see when the ball, he's getting ready he's winding up to throw right now. But as he's doing that, you got this receiver right here pretty much by themselves. Like, if he could get back around and find this dump off, this is the better check down versus forcing this into coverage over here. This little check down here gets good yardage, if not a touchdown. So it's just little decision making things like that right there. Like, you don't need to make this difficult pass. Like, it's a good pass. He gets it where it needs to go, but take the check down. You get several more yards on the check down. Look at that. But I mean, just look how just that effortlessly that throw is. It's not even really much of a step. He's just... And just exactly where it has to be, too. Like, it's a perfect throw on where it needs to go to the boundary right there. It's outside shoulder, so only he can get it. Only his receiver can get it, and there's no step. He just whips it. And that's some of the really cool stuff to watch with Jalen. So here we're going to get a mesh. And he decides to just take off. He could have dumped it off to this receiver right here. But, he could have dumped it off to this guy. But then he's also got this guy. So he's got options where he just decided to take off instead. Now, you could make the argument to me that dumping it off to this first guy isn't a great decision because he's got a defender well in reach of him that could make a play. But if you lead him a little bit, if you get that ball more out here, let him go get it and then get outside or get up the boundary, let him go make a play. But taking off, and then another thing, just now watching this, seeing this, but he's open deep. So you've got 1, 2, 3. I mean, hell, you've got your traditional triangle read, which is our favorite thing. So he had a lot of options here, but he decides to take off and run. Which, as good as he is as a runner, you just love to see those touchdown passes. That you hate seeing those ones that he gives up. I think, does he end up fumbling here? I think they calm him down. He looks down. But he has no fear. He will just run into people. I don't know, maybe they did give him a turn over there. So here's a really awkward formation. I just highlight it because you don't see stuff like this very often, particularly in the air raid. So, typically when we have two receivers in the backfield, we've got a blue or a green, is the Mike Leach terminology. So all this looks like that, except both running backs are lined up to the same side, which is just an interesting look. Obviously, you know why he does it. It's because he gets good blocking that way. Because you're going to go let Jalen Hurts go do Jalen Hurts things. But it's just a really cool thing to see. And we're just going to have an inside zone. It's a split zone. And so that's what makes it just makes it look weird. It's a different look. I know we don't talk a lot about running here, but split zone really is, we're going to go block here, and then he's going to go out here. And then so Jalen has where he can come here or he can cut it back. Split zone's not uncommon, but typically you see it with running back onto the right and the left. Obviously, you don't see a lot of just straight zone runs with the quarterback either, though, so... So yeah, it might be duo actually, now that I see those double teams. Which both of those are very similar concepts. Just got another one of those little dump off screens. Receiver read that wrong. He should have went outside. He had way more room to go if he just goes outside. So here he's just going to take off again. We do have some stuff that opens up where it's just like, man, if you just waited. He's got real two in particular. you've got this receiver running on here, and you got this receiver running a vertical. Now, if he throws this outside, your receiver can just adjust and go get this. Or if you're throwing it to this outside here, just throw it to the sideline, let the receiver go get it. I understand he's a capable runner, but you still want to see these throws because this outside throw to this deep receiver could have potentially been a touchdown. But he takes off and, he gets yards, so it's hard to really argue with it. But another thing here that frustrates me, this is the coach in me coming out, but his ball security in general is poor. Now, he's never really been a big turnover guy. He's not had a lot of turnovers, particularly fumbles. But like when he takes off here, like that ball is low. Like you need to have two hands on that sucker. So this is just your standard air raid. This is early, 3 receivers on the right, 1 on the left. We're going to get another mesh, and he just takes off. I think a few times running mesh in particular, that's just his decision. Which it makes sense, because if they're in a man, they're clearing. They're basically clearing the middle of the field out, and there's going to be a lot of confusion there. There's going to be people turned around, so it's easy for you to just take advantage of that and take the heck off. Because more often than not, you expect Jalen Hurts is going to beat a linebacker. Which he does, more often than not. That's a big old boy getting downfield to make the tackle on him, though, which is pretty cool. So here we're just in like an ace. Single high safety. This looks like it's shallow cross is what it was supposed to be. Or it's this screen. I don't think it's quite the screen play because this outside receiver is running deep. Looks like it's supposed to be shallow cross, and then the inside guy that should be running the dig just gets rerouted and just never quite gets there because Jalen takes off. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like it's supposed to be shallow cross, which it's hard to tell. A lot of these plays look so similar, but yeah, he just goes. Just a little swing screen, and they motion so many different ways. Like that's a jet motion, which we'll see like when they run the power read. We saw orbit motion earlier when he goes behind. They motion guys across formations. They motion guy one way, and then he brings them back. So there's a lot of movement. They do a lot of what like Auburn does, just to try to cause get a linebacker to stare in the backfield just for half a second. But at its core, it's an air raid offense. It's just an air raid power run air raid, really, more than anything. And then this receiver just does a heck of a job. Yeah, their skill guys are fantastic. It's just their offensive line was just not very good. Just going to get a play action. So this is just a miss. This receiver shouldn't have to turn around like this. Like this ball needs to go one of two places. It needs to go here, or it needs to go here. But you need to have, that decision's already need to be made, and it doesn't need to float. You need to get it there, and then let your receiver go get the ball. One of my concerns with Jalen, and it's like an awkward concern because we know he has the arm strength, but sometimes you feel like he's holding back. Like you never see him. You see him really unleash it in the run game, and then every now and then you see him really unleash it in the pass game, but just not consistently. Let him just trust his arm. Yeah, this is a touchdown. Like you can't let this go away. Like you need to throw now. And, yeah, just off. Can't miss those. Can't miss those. All right, so here, it's just poor decision. This is him rushing and just trying to do anything. Just throw the stinking ball away, guy. Like, so we'll see it when we get this shot over here. You know, he's doing all of his running and stuff. Now, granted, dude's been running for his life all day. So he rolls out here. Like, you're here. Like, I know you trust that you're an athlete enough where you can make a play. And more often than not, maybe you can. But, and I know it's third down, so he's really trying to make a play. But just get rid of the ball. Kick a field goal. But instead, we throw a pick, throwing it across her body, throwing late. So everything about it's bad. Everything about that was bad. So here we're just going to get another mesh. So initially, whenever I saw this, I was ticked. I was like, dude, you can't miss the mesh. It's too easy. But when you look at the over the top, he is getting hit as he throws it. Should the ball be out sooner? Yes, anticipate it more, but like there's just not. I mean, he gets hit on his hitch. As we were talking about, he had no protection really. So this is just, again, this is the special arm we talk about. Like everything about this throw says it shouldn't work. It shouldn't get there. Like he's drifting back in the pocket. Like it doesn't even look like he's really trying that hard to throw it. He just kind of flicks the wrist. But there it goes, and it's just where exactly it needs to be. The receiver does a great job stopping on a dime too. Like that's something that should be commended. That's a heck of a play as well. Well, we're just going to decide to run because there's nothing open and he can do it. Like, I understand what they're doing with the fakes and stuff, but it throws off your timing so much. Like, with as bad as that offensive line is, they're not buying any of the runs. So here we roll around, and then now we make a good decision. Like, okay, nothing's open, throw it away. I'm sure whenever he went over to Coach Riley, he got chewed out that, hey, just throw the ball away, dude. That's what we do here. So it's good to see that he is learning, that, you know, he's fixing his own mistakes. So this roll, oh, nothing's open. Okay, no, now I'm just going to throw it away. So again, this is another touchdown. This is the same corner of the same end zone, too, that he missed. I think. It might have been the other end zone, but same concept. Now, and this is what goes in with being an arm thrower. Whenever you don't consistently hit those right arm slots and everything like that, because you're a natural body thrower, you know, you're using your hips, you're using your shoulders, you're using all that, like, and you just try to gun it with your arm, you just naturally can never be as accurate as you could. That's a touchdown that needs to go. So it's just an outside read. There's not a lot going. So they end up kicking a field goal. Now again, we got a bail. So this we miss. There's a couple different options for him. And he picks, again, the hardest one. Like, this is just another example of take the easy throw. So we bail, which the bail is right, but now he's right here. Now he's getting ready to run. Now he's getting ready to throw. He ends up throwing this little curl comeback over here, but this is way more open. We got this guy here. We got more options. But he ends up throwing this, which ends up being the hard throw. And he's late. He's over the top too much, so he misses it. Which even if he hadn't, it looks like the wide receivers would have stepped out of bounds anyway, but... So like right now, you can see that receiver at the top corner left. You can lead him a little bit and hit that. But you're never... That percentage throw on that quarter sideline over there is just not very high. The percentage of a make there. So it's just a screen, but he gets lit up. But it's still a miss. Like you should expect pressure on the screens, but I mean, you can argue it's hard for him to get his head whipped back around to get there, but you need to get there. So here's a really cool design play. Actually, you see this a couple times throughout the course of the year, which is, I think, really interesting. That it's a trick. Wait, no, we're in the wrong play. So that's just a little outside throw. It's just an easy throw. That's just pitch and catch. And we get the late hit. Okay, yeah, here's the flea flicker. I saw this at least one more time for sure. I know I saw it during one of the Baylor games. He may have done it. They may have called it a couple times over the course of the year, but it's a pretty cool play. Then just the flip back. And now he's got not a lot of time, but enough time. And that's a good decision. Like where he places this ball is a good decision. Because if he throws this too far outside or too far over here, you're giving this defender an opportunity to go do something. But where he places it is about perfect. Where I think you'd want to throw it. You make sure your guy's the only guy that can go get it, and then he can go make a play, which he does. Tackling is terrible. So here we just get a little now screen. Just a little screen, which we run several of these. Again, we get another screen. If they give it to you and you're gaining 5+ yards a chunk, why not? And look at that, like. You got people on ice, like on roller skates back there. So here, to me, this looks like he has already made his decision where he's going to go. He's going to take this ball outside, like hook or crook. But if he would have just waited, he gets this corner here in the end zone. And that's open, and that's a touchdown. But to me, it seems like the entire time, he's already made his mind, I'm throwing this outside. Like, there's nothing about that that's open. But you can, this is where you want the anticipation to see this guy, splitting the two defenders. And even if he doesn't get it, which is fine, if these guys, don't let him get there, if you throw it to this pylon over here, he's the only one that has an opportunity to get it. So you're giving your playmaker an opportunity to go make a play, which we've talked about several times with the Justin Herberts and things like that. These guys with these incredibly strong arms that just don't use it on the appropriate times. So you never even really see him like look the other direction. Here, he's got a bail. And this, he just needs to put more on it. Which I know he's under pressure. I know it's not an easy throw, but we saw him flip the ball earlier and just do crazy things with arm strength. And he bails because he has to up the middle. But get this ball out there, man. Like, get it out there. Get it to the back of the pylon. And that's a touchdown. And he's lucky it's not an interception. Let's get this little swing pass. They kind of blow it up. They're tired of it already. It's, and just the fact that these guys, they're just it's so like terrible and awesome to watch at the same time. All the like the terrible missed tackles, but then you see these really awesome plays. He's looking around. There's nothing really open. This is probably a fine decision. You'd like him to be able to complete this. And he's not far off, but he is off on this throw over the top. Like, he's open. He has a step, enough of a step, where you put it out there and you let him go make a play. But you don't ever want to have to see a receiver pull up because you underthrew it. But it's right there. It is tight coverage, so I'm not going to gripe at him too much for that one, but that's one he needs to make a play on. Now here's probably the best play of the game. Alright, drop back. Oh, nothing's there. You'll see it when we get the over-the-top throw, but this is the special. This is like the Cam Newton-esque capability. Like, they're bringing in extra protection because they have to, because they can't protect anything. Alright. Drop back. Oh, my guy did a poor job blocking. Like, oh shit. Now, look at this. Look at this. Again, ball's low. So he puts it behind his back. Just like a basketball. Just snags it. Escapes. Looks upfield, gets a throw off, completes it. Like, oh my goodness! That, like I said, that's the Cam Newton-esque, Cam Newton, Johnny Manziel-esque, more Cam Newton, but just ridiculous playmaking skills, and that's stuff you can't coach, you can't teach. You either have it or you don't, and he's got it in spades. This one's just going to get tipped at the line. There's another one when I first saw it. I was like, oh man, I can't believe you missed that. But this one's actually tipped, so I'm not going to gripe at him. The ball's tipped. It's on the offensive line. He needs to knock that guy in the ribs and make sure that doesn't happen. So here we're under center, which you're not going to see very often. Just an easy throw. And there's your pro throw. Just a play action, little boot action. Throw across. There we go. Just go be a playmaker. Here we get that power rate again. He keeps it. You never want to second guess a guy, but I think he should have just given this one off. Look at it. No, he's probably correct. It's just a poor block. He stands in there and throws this one. Another on the money throw. You maybe like it a little further out, but he nailed it. While getting licked. Boom. Just like again, like these are NFL throws. These are special throws. These are the throws you're like, yeah, that guy. Why aren't more people talking about him throws? But you just don't see that kind of stuff consistently enough, which is the unfortunate part. And so that's why I think ultimately what's going to hold him back. Hopefully he can get in a good situation for him, where he can sit for a few years, really polish, really develop a little bit more, and then really just come out and just, because I think he has the potential to just blow up the world. Like he has just that superstar potential. But anyway, that's it, and we will see y'all next